Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Help Is Here podcast, brought to you by the Compulsion Academy. In this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about why looking at porn once leads to you wanting to look at porn again and again and again and getting into one of these binging cycles. For me, this was one of the hardest things about being addicted to porn. It completely debilitated, is that a word? I don't know, is that a word? It completely destroyed my mind, essentially. It sucked the energy from within. It made me feel completely disgusted in myself, ashamed, lonely, disconnected, and just wanting to escape my reality entirely. And I guess this all kind of started with doing the nofap streaks. You know, when I was on these nofap streaks, I'd look at porn just one time and then I'd want to get out of control. I'd want to make the most of that session because it felt like, well, you know, tomorrow I'm going to start again. I'm on day 0 tomorrow, so I may as well make the most of engaging already. So I may as well continue. So I'd look at porn and look at porn and look at porn, and I'd end up looking at some stuff, well, just like, what am I even looking at this point? You know, just feeling disgusted in myself. And I think the nofap streaks and trying to abstain for a certain period of time made such a massive difference. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the thought patterns behind actually ending up binging. Like, what is actually going on here? Because the cycle for me would be do a streak, end up looking at porn, binge, and then do a streak again. And eventually, you know, I'm just back at day 0 as such every single time. And that led to me being in a really genuinely dark place. Like, I remember walking up the stairs in my block of apartments after one of these binging cycles, and I was just like looking down, and I was on the 8th floor, and I was looking down, and I was just like, honestly, if I could get out of these feelings somehow, I would. And it's like I'd already binged so much at that point that porn wasn't even doing it for me anymore. So it's like, how else do I get out of these feelings? So I'm looking down, and I'm honestly I don't know. I don't think I was ever going to actually end my life for many, many reasons, but I was looking down, and I've got to admit, I was thinking, that would be nice, you know, that would be genuinely nice. And it's not just me, that this is happening to. This is happening to thousands of men all over the world. I have the privilege to work with them and help them overcome this problem. So what I want to do is just read out one of our clients' remember letters. Every client we work with has a remember letter. And generally speaking, they're all quite similar in that they're all very dark, and they're all documenting the actual reality of being in this addiction. So this is one of my clients' remember letters, just to express how I'm not alone and you're not alone in dealing with maybe these binging cycles and doing these streaks and then ending and just feeling absolutely, utterly drained and depressed. So this is what this client said. He said, if I were to count all the hours spent watching porn over the years, the total would likely add up to months of precious time wasted, with so much to lose and nothing to gain from this compulsive behaviour. The sooner I confront it head on, the sooner I'll reclaim my freedom. This problem won't simply vanish on its own. Continuing to engage in this destructive pattern means continuing to live a life of unfulfilled potential, all while knowing deep down that I am capable of so much more. This addiction has brought me endless frustration, anxiety, disappointment, and a sense of hopelessness. It has permeated every aspect of my life, affecting my mood, confidence, motivation, optimism, self-esteem, and mental clarity. Now I face a choice. Do I remain a slave to this addiction, the kind of person I struggle to respect, or do I choose to stay present, accept temporary discomfort, and take control of my life? Finally, escaping this trap that has held me back for so long. No more empty promises and pointless nofap streaks, feeling good for a moment, only to stumble back to day 1 and face that crushing sense of failure all over again. I want more for myself. I want to be in a healthy relationship again, something that porn addiction has stolen from me before and will surely steal again if I let it. It's time to make a lasting change. I owe it to myself to break free and to build the life I truly desire. So literally, as I say, thousands of people stuck in this porn binging cycle, and I feel for people because it's hard and I've been there. I know what it's like. So let's actually figure out how to deal with this, right? One of the biggest things that's going on is the deprivation mindset. This is after binging. What happens is we get into these thought patterns where we say things like, I hate porn, I never ever want to watch it again. We have this, temporary motivation, and we're like, I'm so sick of living like this. I won't relapse from tomorrow onwards. I'm going to quit for good this time. This time I'm going to be more disciplined. I can't ever go back to porn ever again. And all these thoughts sound very productive and motivating, but the reality is they're actually very, very harmful. This is why. Because what we're trying to do is basically quit. We're trying to quit this thing that really we want to do. And what can happen is, we do maybe stop that behaviour very temporarily. But then as time goes on, as maybe we're on a streak, we completely forget about how bad we felt the last time we binged. And the discomfort comes up. Maybe we're going through withdrawal. And then we have the thought, I'll just have a quick sneak peek. Maybe looking once isn't really going to hurt much. And what then happens is we might have these sort of questions like, have I already relapsed now? Does it make any difference if I look anymore? I've already looked, so does it make any difference, right? Why do I keep doing this to myself? What is wrong with me? Oh, I'm so messed up. I'm such a failure. You have this self-deprecation. So then eventually it goes, well, fuck it. May as well look at some more, right? And then the binging cycle just continues and continues because we've got all these questions. And the other thing that might happen is we might say to ourselves, oh, damn it. And these are actually some of the quotes from the clients I've worked with, right? Just a range of different clients as well. And some of these quotes are from myself, thoughts that I've had in the past. So, damn it, I've already started. Now I have to finish. I've gone this far, so I may as well go further. Fuck it. I'll just do it one more time. This will be the last time. And this is one of my own ones. It doesn't make a difference now, as I'm back on day 0 anyway. All of those thoughts again, they just end in, fuck it, may as well watch some more. And then the binging cycle just goes on and on and on. So we need a solution to this problem. What we absolutely must do is stop counting the days. So what happens is, usually when people try and stop porn, is they're counting the days. They're starting off on day 0 and they're actually ending up at day 0 as well. So we've got to get rid of this counting, because the counting is not productive at all. If we look at some of these thoughts again, I'll be able to explain why counting the days is actually holding people back. Because first of all, what we have is the deprivation mindset. Because we're counting the days and we're trying not to do this thing that we want to do, and we're saying, I hate porn, I never want to watch it again, we're completely denying the wanting. The reality is, when you're in an addiction, you are going to want to engage in this compulsive behaviour. The addicted neural pathways are now there. Then we have thoughts like, I'm so sick of living like this, I won't relapse from tomorrow onwards. What we have here is just temporary motivation. And your motivation will go. Motivation does not last forever. So the motivation will go, and what we need instead is a strategy and a tool and a very specific way of dealing with any urge that inevitably comes our way. The other thought that we have is, I'm going to quit this for good this time, and there we're just focused on not doing something. So we need to replace that with, well, what am I choosing to do and why? There's actually no such thing as not doing something. Every single dead person, every single animal that's lived for a few years now is on a longer no-fap streak than 99% of people overcoming a porn addiction. These are dead goals. Trying not to do something isn't actually a thing. It's just a socially constructed thought that we have. These no-fap streaks, they're this illusion that we are in control of ourselves, when the reality is that they have nothing to do with moment by moment changing addicted neural pathways, or at least very little to do with it. So we want to change it to actually, well, what am I choosing to do and why? Because instead of focusing on not doing something, we are actually doing something. And so we have this opportunity to change the addicted neural pathways. That's what we want to be focused on doing, is actually changing how our brain works. So this time I'm going to be more disciplined. Well, that thought is all about discipline, right? But the reality is, of overcoming an addiction, we need to outsmart the addicted part of the mind. As I say, we need a strategy. And then we have this thought of, I can't ever go back to porn again, which is deprivation thinking. And the reality is, you can always go back to porn. And if you're here, then there's a good chance you are currently going back to porn. So let's go through some other sort of questions and see where these lead. So we've got, have I already relapsed? Well, it's an unanswerable question. It's just going to get you into a state of helplessness. The reality is, in that moment, you are wanting porn, and so you want to use something that's going to help you think through that choice. You've got to have a strategy, a very specific way of dealing with that thought pattern. That is really just an unanswerable question designed by the addictive part of the mind to get you unsure of yourself. And the same solution applies to other questions like, does it make a difference if I look anymore now? Why do I keep doing this to myself? What is wrong with me? I'm so messed up. I'm such a failure. That's just self-deprecation. In all of those moments when you have any of those thoughts, we have an opportunity to change addictive neural pathways. For the clients I work with, they use a very specific script which enables them to think through the choice. And we need to start off by acknowledging that these questions are the addictive part of the mind, and really what's going on is in those moments, it's the addictive part of the mind getting us closer and closer to engaging in this compulsive behaviour. And that's why this binging cycle happens, is because we're not necessarily aware that actually all these questions are just part of the addiction. It's the addicted part of the mind trying to get us to engage in the compulsive behaviour, right? And then finally, a few more junky thoughts, and junky thoughts are any excuse, rationalisation, justification to engage in the compulsive behaviour. A few more junky thoughts to talk through. So as I say, damn it, I've already started now I have to finish. I've gone this far, so I may as well go further. Fuck it, I'll just do it one more time. This will be the last time. It doesn't make a difference now, as I'm back on day 0 anyway. So again, with all of these thoughts that we've got here, all these questions that we had earlier, they're all so far away from the present moment, that moment where you actually have a choice. They're all taking us either into the past or into the future, getting us questioning ourselves, making us feel pretty terrible. So the reality is that actually just moment by moment, we always have a choice. And to change the brain correctly, we experience these urges. No matter when they take place, no matter what we've done in the past, no matter what we're worried about in the future, moment by moment, we always have our power, have control over ourselves, are completely empowered to make a choice for ourselves. And when we start to take things moment by moment and we deal with the urge just one moment at a time, one urge at a time, instead of thinking about days and thinking about streaks and thinking about what you've done in the past, we will reclaim our peace of mind, what we really deserve. We will be able to experience permanent mental freedom from this problem. But in an addiction, I appreciate it's difficult, and all these questions that are coming up and all these junky thoughts that are coming up, they're all designed by the addicted part of the mind to get people away from the present moment. And that's how the binging cycle takes place. I really hope this podcast will help you a little bit in your journey of overcoming pornography addiction for good. If you'd like to learn more about the Beyond Compulsion method, which I've used successfully to overcome porn for good, we do have a free training video. There's a link in the description. And you can also get a score out of 100 by using the compulsion test. There's a link in the description to that as well, and that will help you discover how addicted you are to pornography. Thanks a lot for watching or listening to this episode of the Help Us Here podcast, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.